Hello, welcome back to Math Time with Professor Prime, and I am your host, as always, Professor Prime. So, I wanted to talk about math in video. It's a broad topic, so I feel like you can make several videos of this. I will do my best to talk about what I need to talk about in this particular video, or what I wanted to talk about in this video. So, math in video. You can come at this from different angles. I'm gonna be focusing on film and TV and a bit of online videos, i.e., YouTube, for instance, and how math is used in all of those. And I feel like again, you could turn each of those into separate videos, but I feel like there's some overlap, and I'm not okay with that amount of overlap, and I don't want to repeat myself too much. So yeah, I'll do this video, and it can be watched in conjunction with the other videos, but it could also be viewed separately. So I want to talk about how math goes into creating different videos, how it goes into consuming those videos, and how it's used in terms of like a more meta narrative. Um, so yeah, I want to kind of talk about all that. So I guess to kick it off, um, if you're constructing a world in like film or TV, for instance, right? You have to have a structure to it. You want to typically have a structure to it. So you want to have that world have rules that it follows, rules of physics, and how you interact with that world. And there's a lot of math behind that. Whether we realize it or not, we might not be writing every single thing down, but it's there. And then of course there's if you're looking at the size of items in that world, like you want to have a good idea about proportions. And when you're filming, and you have to get it from different shots and different angles, you want to have a good idea about like how does that affect that visual, that visual, how does it affect your visuals? And then if you're dealing with the film, are you dealing with something that's part of a larger franchise? Or are you dealing with something that has multiple parts to it? Because then you have to decide how you want to structure your video based on that, how you want to structure your film based on that. Um, and let's say like I have a single movie for yet. I don't know if it's franchise worthy yet because I don't know if it makes money. So I want to have a story that I'm telling in a certain amount of time. And typically, we make movies to be, somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours, like feature length films anyway, because there's different levels to this. And so then you have to consider, well, I want to tell this story, and if you're not sure if it's going to sell or not, well, I want to tell this story. I want to make it fairly self-contained, but leave it open to a sequel. You want to see what you can do in that time, and you want to break it up into parts, right? You want your beginning, your middle, and your end, and you want to have layers to that, right? You want to include things like, oh well, I want to have rising action and falling action and all that good stuff. And there's a lot of math and story structure too, and I think that's interesting. But you want to see what happens with that, right? And then if you make some money, you turn it into a franchise. You're just motivated by how much you made, and you also want to consider, well, how much did I make versus the budget that I have or had. So there's something to be considered in that regards, and you can make similar arguments for TV. Only the one tweak I would make would be, okay. So like for a movie, for instance, like I said, you had like 2 hours or so for like a regular film. And that changes if it has parts and as part of a franchise, because then you can branch out how much you want to do that story, right? Wow, there was a better way to say all of that. But yeah, so with TV, right? Like typically, you have like a season, right? Assuming it's not like some sort of special, and so you have more time to spread out that story. And so you have to figure out, well, how long are my episodes? Am I dealing with a show that runs about a half an hour, or so what do I need to do there? Or am I running something that runs an hour? And then you also have to consider, like, well, how does that branch out, and how does that stack up with what we're doing right now in the world. Because right now, right, you have like Netflix, you have a lot of other different streaming platforms, and the way TV is changing. And to elaborate, before a lot of the times, right, you would have like an hour long. If you had an hour long show, then you want to factor in commercial breaks with that. So you want to have like maybe something that's like 42 minutes or something like that. Um, and then with a half hour show, like something that's like 21 minutes or something like that. But with streaming, you don't have to worry about that. And streaming is its own own discussion you can make arguments for. And I think that's fascinating because when you talk about the structure of movies and the structures of like TV and how it all stacks up, when you're dealing with streaming, it changes what we can do and what we can expect and how you map out your stories. And I think that's all fascinating to me. And there's a lot of math in how you map all this out. Um, and then, there's of course like math and recording, and that could be like how you're filming different shots. It could be what you're filming on. It could be the resolution of said film, and I think that's fascinating. And then I wanted to jump into like YouTube for a second because if you're watching this, you're you're watching a YouTube video because I posted it up to YouTube. And I myself, I have to have a good sense of where I'm at in the shot, and I have to have a good sense of where my eyes are at, and I don't always have the best sense of that. It's something that I'm working on, but like I'm trying not to look in too many odd directions, but I have to have somewhat of a good idea of that and try to correct myself. And there's math in that. And then if you want to jump to a more meta level, well, I mean this is already meta, but so I have to consider that, but I have to consider how long I want to make the videos. Like for these Math in the World videos, I want to make them about 10 minutes, so I have to decide the amount of content that I have to put into that and how I want to spread that out. And if I want to do multiple videos or multiple series and things along those lines. And then you can get into analytics. And for me, oh my God, if I go down that rabbit hole, it's hard for me to get out. But I can get a good idea of how many people are watching my videos, of course, how many people are subscribed. I can get a good idea of like where those people are from. I can get an idea of like, the percent involved in that, the percentages of involved in that. And I think that's all fascinating. And that can all impact how you make videos down the line. And a lot of people swear by analytics, and it's fascinating. They can give you so much information, and so much math in it. And data is something that very much intrigues me. So looking at my own analytics, it's fascinating. I haven't had this channel for too long, but I have had enough so I could say, oh, okay, so this is happening and that's happening, and some things confirm what I'm thinking, and other things like, oh, okay, well that's interesting. What can I do with that? And that's all fascinating to me. And then you would jump back over to TV and jump back over to videos, and there's a lot outside of those realms, right? Because when you're making material, it's like, well, what will sell, right? Or are ads going to support this? And how much money they're making, how much money are they paying people? There's so many things to consider in all of it. And again, like you can make separate discussions on just about every topic that I had on here. And then if you're looking at like 2D versus 3D, I mean, it's fascinating because with 2D, there's a lot of math in the animation, which I don't think gets talked about too much. Whether you're doing it like hand drawn or you're digitally animating it, like there's a lot of math that goes into the animation itself, and then like filming said animation, and I think that's pretty cool. And then with 3D, you have your live action stuff, and we talked about that. But then you have like 3D animation, and there's a lot of math that goes into that, a lot of coding, and also just constructing that physical world or that digital world that has a representation as a physical world that you see in the film. So hopefully I didn't ramble too much with this. It's just like I was thinking about it, and there's just so many ways that math is done or used in all this. And I guess like the last part that I wanted to mention is just that when it comes to consuming all this material, we have to weigh these things against our interests. We have to weigh them with how much time it will take to view them. We'll have to weigh them with how much it costs. right? Like for me, for instance, if I am going to a movie or I'm, you know, paying for that, then I want to make sure it's something that I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be interested in. Whereas if it's a YouTube video, for instance, I'm still going to want to go for things that I'm interested in, but I'm more likely to take chances because it doesn't really cost me money. But I'm still cautious because it costs me time. So that's all fascinating to me. And again, we can talk about this all day. And if I do some sort of follow up in the future, you know, you'll see it here. But hopefully, I gave you an overview and that you started to think about how math is just used in all these variety of contexts. Um, yeah, so I will see you in the next one. And if you have anything to add to the conversation, please let me know. Professor Prime out.